The first Canadians were the ancestors of the current Amerindians who crossed the Bering Strait over 20,000 years ago, and by the year 8000, different tribes were already dividing the territory of present-day Canada. It was in the year 986 that the first Europeans would arrive in America, as a group of Vikings accidentally discovered the island of Newfoundland, Labrador, and Baffin Island after getting lost on their journey from Iceland to Greenland. They deviated much further west due to a storm and lack of correct directions. Later, around the year 1000, another group of Vikings from Greenland, led by Leif Erikson, would again reach Canada after learning about these new lands. They even founded a settlement on present-day Newfoundland, which didn't work out due to issues with the natives, with whom they couldn't establish peaceful relations, partly because they lacked an army. The Vikings realized that life in these new lands would not be easy, so they decided to abandon the settlements and only visit them to replenish resources like wood and iron, especially needed in Greenland. However, the Vikings would leave Greenland in the early 14th century after the arrival of the Ice Age, and in the same way, they would stop visiting North America. Almost 2 centuries later, Canada would be visited again by Europeans after the arrival of the first settlers from England and France. In 1497, an Italian navigator named Giovanni Caboto explored the east coast of North America in the service of England. It was not until 1524 when the Italian navigator Giovanni de Verrazzano explored the Atlantic coast again and named the new territory Francesca in honor of King Francis I of France. French traders realized that the St. Lawrence region produced furs, especially beaver, which were hard to find in Europe as the European beaver was near extinction. Eventually, the French crown decided to colonize the territory to secure and extend its influence in America. These vast territories would be known as Acadia and Canada, belonging to New France, even annexing a part of Newfoundland since most of the island belonged to England. It's important to note that there were several attempts to settle in these territories, but they always ended in resounding failures. In 1598, a trading post was established on Sable Island off the coast of Acadia, but it was unsuccessful. In 1600, another post was established in the current province of Quebec, at Tadoussac, but only 5 colonists survived the harsh winter. However, England, claiming the first Canadian exploration by Giovanni Caboto in English service, claimed various French possessions in Canada, to the point that England would grant the region of Acadia to the Scots in 1621, a region that would change hands several times during the Anglo-French conflicts for the supremacy of North America. In 1642, France would found Montreal, which along with Tadoussac, renamed Quebec in 1608, would slowly prosper because minorities were not allowed to settle, as New France was exclusively Catholic. Thus, New France would be constituted by 5 major colonies in North America: Canada, Hudson Bay, Acadia, Newfoundland, and Louisiana, located in what is now the United States. However, Hudson Bay was the scene of several disputes between the French and the English for the territory, as the bay is named after the English explorer Henry Hudson, who in 1610 was the first navigator to enter its waters. These vast territories provided access to the fur trade, in which both the French and the English wanted exclusivity. The French founded the Northwest Company of Montreal, and the English founded the Hudson's Bay Company. Between 1756 and 1763, the 7 Years' War would erupt, a global event among different European powers for their colonies, to which the American colonies were no exception. The British supported American colonies, along with a group of Native Americans known as the Iroquois Confederation, the Cherokees, and some other native tribes, faced New France supported by the Wabanaki Confederation, Algonquins, Hurons, Ottawas, and other North American ethnic groups. The French, who initially had high dominance in the war, would end up losing their territories due to the lack of French troops after the blockade of the British Royal Navy in the Atlantic, preventing the passage of supplies and soldiers to New France. This would result in the eventual French defeat at the hands of Britain in 1760 after the fall of Montreal, with the British occupying all of New France. Therefore, in 1763, the Treaty of Paris would be signed, causing France to abandon its possessions in North America, except for the islands of St. Pierre and Miquelon, retaining fishing rights near Newfoundland. Although Quebec became a British colony, most French settlers decided to stay, so Quebec still maintains French as the official language in Canada to this day. Under British rule, the population of Canada would grow rapidly. However, after the end of the 7 Years' War, Britain would be heavily indebted after the victory itself, so it decided to increase taxes in all its colonies, affecting mainly the English colonies in North America. This, along with other factors, would later trigger the War of Independence of the 13 colonies, which would later become the United States of America. At the end of the war, thousands loyal to the British Crown sought refuge in Canada, mainly in Nova Scotia, forcing the creation of the colony of New Brunswick in 1784 to accommodate about 50,000 refugees. Michigan, which was then Canadian territory, initially supported the fight for independence, so at the end of it, it fell under the control of the newly formed United States. Subsequently, the United Kingdom divided Canada into two parts: Upper Canada, English-speaking, and Lower Canada, French-speaking. By 1818, the border between the United States and Canada was established at the parallel 49, at the same time exploring the western lands that were unknown to the English. Along with the newly formed United States, Britain explored the Oregon region as its own occupation until the Oregon Treaty of 1846 divided this region into two parts, below the parallel 49 for the United States and above for the United Kingdom, a region that would later be called British Columbia. After the approval of the British North America Act in 1867 by the British Parliament, the two Canadas would change their names and become provinces, the Province of Ontario and the Province of Quebec. At the same time, the Canadian Confederation was created, uniting New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, although this confederation, now with its own autonomy, remained loyal to the British Crown. In 1870, the Hudson's Bay Company transferred its territories to the Confederation, thus creating the Northwest Territories. The same year, the Manitoba Act came into effect, dividing these new territories to create the province of Manitoba. A year later, the Western British colonies would join the Confederation, marking the entry of British Columbia as the sixth Canadian province. Then, the colony of Prince Edward Island would join Canada in 1873 as the seventh province, and in 1880, the United Kingdom would transfer its Arctic islands to Canada, becoming part of the Northwest Territories. On June 13, 1898, the Yukon Territory was created by dividing the northwest part of the Northwest Territories, becoming the second territory of Canada. Alberta and Saskatchewan would be born in 1905 from the division of the Northwest Territories. After this, Canada would demonstrate its loyalty to the British Crown by sending troops in both World Wars and playing a key role in the Second during D-Day in the Normandy landings with the Allies. In 1949, the now independent Newfoundland and its dependency of Labrador would relinquish self-government and join Canada as the 10th province. In the 1960s, Canada would adopt a new official flag that remains to this day and make English and French its two official languages. Finally, in 1999, the Northwest Territories would be divided again to create the third territory known as Nunavut. With this, Canada is formed as it is today. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more content.